about it. Come on, let's talk about it. Change up the things you see. Open your mind to possibilities. Find your power, passion, and your purpose. You know it's time for you to walk in greatness. Let's murder mediocrity. Play your goals, live out your dreams. Right now. Inspirational perspective.
I got my good friend, attorney Ernest B. Fenton, in the studio with me this morning. We're going to have I will call I know it's going to be much more than a Renaissance man conversation. Although you are a Renaissance man, also a professional.
Thank you.
An attorney at law, a relationship influencer, a world traveler. The list goes on. And so I'm excited about today's conversation. Excited, too, because my good brother Fenton decided to join me in Ghana this year.
Absolutely.
And so I just want to ask you some bold and honest questions about your experience over there.
All right.
Because one of the things I've been told, especially when travelers are thinking about going, they're like, well, I don't know who those people are you have on the show. How I know you didn't tell them to say those things? I've literally heard this before.
Oh, wow.
And when they know you, they know I can't tell you to say anything. So now they get a real objective view of this opportunity and the trip to Ghana. So I want to start with that, but I also want to just prepare the audience for what they're going to get in today's show, because we're not just going to talk about Ghana this morning, but I want to talk with Attorney Fenton about Africa, the African experience, because he has lots of experience in Africa, not just West Africa, but also East Africa and other parts of the continent. So I want to talk about that, because I think there's something that we can learn as black folk about that connection, making that connection. Here's a brother who made that connection very early and is successful, and I'm beginning to wonder if there's a correlation, and we'll talk more about that.
You're breaking my code.
Yeah. If there's a correlation to success. Because, by the way, any African-American I've met in the motherland is successful. It's like, oh, that's interesting. Okay, so we'll come back to that. But then also, while we were there, we couldn't help but have conversations about black relationships. And I want to bring a little bit of that to the air this morning, because we couldn't help but have conversations about black relationships because you experience relationship over there in a different way.
Right.
And so we'll close the show talking about black relationships, romantic relationships in particular. So.
Good stuff, sir.
Yeah, man.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Pleasure to have you. So how was Ghana for you?
Succinctly, it was great, right? For a lot of reasons. So one part of the experience is the experience of experiencing Ghana and Africa with African Americans.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's one part of it. So you get to experience you and other people in the context of the experience of Africa. Right. So we don't think of it in those terms oftentimes. We just think of ourselves going over there.
Yeah, true.
But you get to learn from other people by watching those people have an experience, and then vice versa. So part of the power is in the group, right?
A lot of the power is in the group.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then another part of the power was, and I don't want to stay here too long, I'm sure it'll come back up, part of the power is like being in Africa and being in privity with Linnell. So a person that you have a relationship with, whether it's like an indirect relationship or myself, it's a direct relationship, right? But then I get to see him in a different light. Like I said, okay, let me go immerse myself, if you will, in the experience of Linnell. So now I've had two relationships, right? And then for me, okay, so then let's skip forward. So I don't want that to get lost. Sometimes we lose those things. And then we have the experience of Ghana and the experience of Africa. What I did not know was Ghana was the gateway to the slave trade. That part I didn't know. All the times that I've gone to Africa, I didn't experience it from that standpoint. I went to Africa to see what the continent looked like, present day, without necessarily an attempt to experience it from that standpoint. Mm-hmm. So then I was like, all right, let me sit in this and, let me, again, immerse myself. Let me take in, the told experience of the slave trade in this gateway.
Got you.
So then I got present to certain things there. And then the people, the people are the people. And I've experienced the people before. But for those who have not experienced the people, you see your cousin there. You see your sister smile there.
Man.
You see you there.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You see the vibrance of, black people in the diaspora. It's all there. And so it awakens you. Like I have a cup of coffee today. Like there's no cup of coffee like Africa.
Man, I love that. Write that down. There's no cup of coffee. We're going to quote Fenton on that one. There's no cup of coffee quite like Africa. Yeah. Because it's an awakening experience.
Yeah.
So to that point, you've been to Africa multiple times, East Africa. This was your first time in West Africa?
First time in West Africa. I've been to South Africa a couple of times. I've been to East Africa several times.
Okay. What awakened in you in Ghana, West Africa?
Let me just give some quotes.
Okay.
Like, get present. The young man said to me, and this is the awakening. Young man, he had to be in his 20s. He couldn't be in it. He could have been 50, but he looked 27. I'm just telling you.
Right.
You see? So this young man showed us the tree.
Oh, yeah.
What's the doorway? What is it called? What is it?
Yep. The Tree of Life.
At the Tree of Life. So the young man showed us the tree, and it had a very broad trunk, right? And I think I learned this 7th or 8th grade.
Are you talking about we were at Cocoon National Park, correct?
No.
No? We were somewhere else. Okay.
At the river.
Oh, Volta. In the Volta region.
Yes.
Okay.
So he shows us the tree. It has a wide trunk, and then it had two branches that split apart, two perfectly split apart branches.
Yeah.
Trunk branches, or no, we call them branches. Large branches split apart, then small branches spawned from those large two branches that split apart. And then very succinctly, eloquently, he said, the left side is America. And these are all the slaves who were taken to America. That was the left trunk. And then he said the right trunk is Africa. And this is us and all of the different countries in Africa, and all split apart. And he said, but what you see here is, like, despite all of the branches, all the leaves, and the fact that we're split apart and we're not connected in that way, but our trunk and our roots are the same.
Yeah. Yep.
And that was the connection. But hold on. He didn't stop right there. He took it one level up for me. And I was like, wow. So when people say, oh, I'm not African, I'm American, I'm like, no, sir. Yeah. No, ma'am. No, you're actually African. You can't change your roots. I don't care how far you branch out. Your roots are the same. The trunk, the foundation is the same. So, in fact, you are African American.
Yep. Which is why I use the term.
Or Puerto Rican African.
Yeah. Or Afro. A lot of Latinos.
Afro-Latina.
Right.
Brazil, African.
Right.
So you are. But then he took it one step further. This is what really floored me. My awakening. He said, and they kept, like I heard you say, they kept saying, welcome back. He said, I just want you to know you got on the slave ships, right? Our ancestors. And he said, they never expected you to return home. They never, all the slaves who got on the ship were never expected to return home, whether they knew that or not, right? That was the design. And most, if essentially all of them never returned home. He said, except for today.
Right.
So this is what got me, and I'm moving on. What got me is that it's not just for us to go to Africa so we can see Africa like it's some type of sideshow.
Right.
So we can feel good. It's a responsibility that we return because we represent the ancestors who were unable to return.
There we go.
And we're not just going there to see them. They're waiting on us to return. They're waiting on us to go see. They're waiting at the shores for us to return. They're waiting to see us.
Man, well said. I want to point to a few very specific experiences. And so you had the opportunity to be with us in Cape Coast and go through the dungeons. And I just wanted to get your perspective on that experience and how it was for you and what you took from it.
It's the unbearable thought of being constrained in that way, and having to muster whatever strength, whatever spiritual, emotional foundation that you have to overcome that. And so that's what I take. And then I apply that to myself by saying to myself, like, then if they were required, if you will, to overcome that, and many did, then who should you be? And that's it.
Yeah, that was my takeaway. And I shared it last week. I've shared it before, but for me, it was, where am I being victimized in my life mentally? Because true victimization, this is true victimization. Yeah. Anywhere I'm allowing myself to stop, anywhere I'm blaming someone else for my circumstance, anywhere I'm doing that, and I'm not in the situation of my ancestor, then I'm allowing victimization.
Right.
They were truly victimized.
Yeah.
And anywhere I'm stopping, or anywhere, because here's the thing, many of us are in a dungeon of procrastination.
Right.
Many of us are in the dungeons of financial duress. Right. And by the way, we can actually get out if we're willing to do the work.
Right.
But it's easier to be, oh, well, you know, they won't pay me more. The white man, this, that, right? And so we stay in those dungeons. And one of the things that going to Ghana does is it frees you. Yeah. You're like, I don't think anyone can go and continue to behave the same way.
Which would explain why when they come here, they're so successful.
There you go. When you come back.
Yeah.
Or when Africans, you're saying when Africans in particular?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So if you give them any level of foundation, they're going to far exceed.
Provide some more context to that for someone who doesn't necessarily understand what you're saying. And for someone who hasn't been there.
Well, you see, what's the word? I can't think of the word. When you see, what's the word? People could travel here. Immigrants. Look at African immigrants, right? If you look at an African immigrant who comes over here with anything, you give her or him a few dollars, you give them an education, you give them any level of foundation, they're going to run with it, right? And which is going to lead to another conversation, which is how many of us really have connections with Africans here in America? So a lot of people can't relate to what I'm saying, which is causing me to pause.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And so this is layered. It's layered in that one of the reasons I think it's important for African Americans to get to Africa is so that you can actually experience the mental chains that are holding you. You get over there and you're like, wait, black people are on the bill. Like, there's no excuse when you get into Africa, there's no excuse. Opportunity is handed to you. And so if you're not taking advantage of it, it's your stuff. And so what I believe happens for many of us that go, you're like, wait, my context for thinking is off. America has got me so mentally twisted, I've been thinking about all this wrong. And that's an experience that Africa gives to you. Yeah. So many African Americans, they have these mental chains they don't know even exist.
Yeah. It's the illusion of boundaries. Yeah. That we have in America.
Yeah, there you go.
The illusion of boundaries. Yeah, let me triple down on that. Black folk be like, what I can't do. And that just sounds ridiculous.
It's declarative too.
It's absurd. Yeah. That an American, any American, okay, let's go ahead. I might as well start right now. This is what white folk are hearing and I'm not validating or justifying white folk, but I'm going to wake you up just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's absurd for you to say that you don't have opportunity.
Right.
You just don't have white folk opportunity. But you, even though we're short of white American opportunity, we still have more opportunity than 95%. Okay, I'll lowball you. 80% of everyone else in the world.
In the world.
Black people, poor black people in America, are ahead of 80% of the people in the world.
And living much better
than 90% of the people in the world.
Yep. Living posh lifestyles.
Correct. You have cars, internet, heat, water, gas,
phones,
for your phone, multiple TVs,
entertainment.
These are poor black people.
Yep. PS5s, Xboxes, games. Yep.
Gym shoes, extra clothes.
No, not just regular gym shoes.
Jordans.
Like we wear Jordans, right? Yeah.
So when you go there, that's what Linnell was saying, is like it strips you of your excuses.
Yeah.
Because if you see what they do, like you're watching a lady. I'm watching a lady, a young girl, hat on her head, right? You know how you have to carry a case of water? Young man, you look pretty strong over there. I got to go to the gym. I don't like the way he's looking at me. He ain't even looking at me. I'm just making it up.
You're talking about identity.
So the young lady, she didn't have a case of water in her hands or on a cart. I had this case of water. I had to lift up on the cart. She was like 21. She had the equivalent of about 2 cases of water balanced in a basket on her head, walking, selling the water. You think she's there for 10 minutes selling that water with those 2 cases of water on her head? No. So her neck, her back, how strong are her legs? And then when she gets a customer, she has to reach up and grab a bottle of water, hand it to them, count the money, give them back change, and keep it moving.
While balancing the water on her head.
On her head. Not using her hands.
At all. Yeah. It's a different... and to this point, right, it looks like a circus trick to us. This is survival for them. So then when you come, I'm reading a comment right now, right? And this is, you know, much love to you, sis, but foreigners get benefits such as loans and grants and businesses this country may not give to African Americans as a whole. I've spoken with some African Americans. I'm doing this, you know, I'm doing this in her voice, right? I've spoken with some Africans about this, and the husbands were more than willing to admit the truth to me. And by the way, that's them, like, basically,
that comment can't be real.
Yeah, no, it's a real comment. It's a real comment.
See what?
But let me point this out. This is contextually what I'm talking about in our thinking. As soon as someone hears this conversation where we're saying you have access to more, you can do more, it's triggering.
Yeah.
Because there's a certain comfort in being a victim.
Right.
Like, when I'm a victim, I'm not to blame. Right. Someone else is to blame.
Yeah. And
the conversation that we're having this morning, we're saying, no, you're empowered in ways that you're not allowing yourself to be empowered.
Yeah.
Now, some folks have trauma. Some folks have gone through some crazy things. Yeah. But even therapy is free. All you got to do is go to Hip Hop Coffee. What's the name? Hip Hop Coffee and Mental Health. That's what it is.
Okay.
.com or .org. But free therapy in Google, and you can get your needs met, is my point. You have to want to.
Yeah, I'll bring the conversation back around. That's why it's important to travel.
Yeah.
Because it's like how much we can speak logic. It just won't penetrate many of us because we've already assigned ourselves victim.
Somebody said that's going to cause issues with her back later.
Yeah, but how's your back?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, hold on. Meanwhile, and I don't want to get stuck here. We're going to move on.
But it's a thinking. It's a thinking.
70%, 80% of African Americans are overweight. How's your back?
They didn't have to carry.
No,
nothing.
her back is going to be strong. See, we don't even know our strength.
No,
so
we don't.
rather than interpreting that as the strength that is available to us, that is untapped, we interpret it as it's going to hurt or harm you.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, your back can carry a lot more than 2 cases of water. How about it should have told you that? Well,
and when you see it, and when you see it, and when you see how their elderly are thriving.
Correct.
Because it's the experience. Again, you all have to understand that Fenton and I have seen a lot. And I think this is the difference. The experience, East Africa, the experiences of seeing a 70-year-old man, a 70-year-old woman who's dancing.
Right.
Who is vibrant.
Yeah.
And who can tell you the stories of how she sold in the marketplace with things on her head. So that's why when I see a comment like that, I go, man, where are we getting this stuff? Because I'm experiencing, not reading, I'm experiencing something different.
Right.
And so, to that point, we got about 15 minutes left, and I know we want to spend some time talking about black relationships, because this really goes hand in hand. What would you say the African experience did to you as a young man? And tell us a little bit about your journey for those who don't know. First off,
you can read it in my book, F the Odds, How to Bet on You and Win. I dedicated an entire chapter, I believe, to that subject.
Yeah.
It was profound. It was a profound, life-changing, never-ending benefit for me. Like, I walk around with it.
Yeah.
And I don't talk about it, I think, just because it's just part of me. You know, but the relationships that I established, the purity, the authenticity of the people, the smiles, the honesty, the integrity that they operate in, as an example, which I think, you know what? Let me give you this example, Linnell, because I can give you 100.
Right.
And you kind of know how I roll and like how I deal with people. What happened? This is my experience in Africa and most people, a lot of people know that I started my first formal business from Africa in Kenya.
Right.
So I was in Nairobi. I had an internship at the Kenyan Human Rights Commission. I got to give a shout out to Professor Charles Ogletree from Harvard Law School, who's like the godfather of black law students. And he connected me with an internship in Nairobi. I went to Nairobi and I was in the markets every day hanging out with my peeps. I was 23, 24 years old. I started a business. Linnell, I had no money, sir.
Hold on. Let me just pause right quick. See, contextually, what you just said is going to escape a lot of people. But because I understand the African marketplace.
Right.
I've been to the African marketplace. Like, do you all get that Attorney Fenton was already who he was when he went there? Then, and by the way, this is post-law school.
I was in law school.
You were in law school.
First year, after my first year of law school.
So then he went and got an MBA in business in the Nairobi marketplace.
Exactly.
And this is what I'm really trying to help you all understand.
Yeah.
And the brothers and sisters who went to Ghana right now, I know they're shaking their head like, I learned something in that marketplace. Right? Some of them got MBAs. And like, I learned something about business in that marketplace.
Yeah.
So you went to the marketplace at 23, 24 years old as a Harvard law student.
Yes.
And began to do business in the Nairobi marketplace.
I surely did, with no money.
With no money.
Yeah. My mother, I think, sent me $50.
Which, again, takes away all the excuses of, well, I don't got this, I don't have that. Most of us have $50.
Right. And so what I did was I bartered. And I built relationships, right? So I go there every day after work and hang out. And then I just was fascinated watching them make soapstone jewelry or dishes or making earrings out of banana leaves and things like that, copper, aluminum, jewelry, and all that good stuff, boutiques. And I sent some back, jewelry, to my mother in a box. They gave me most of it, right? Back then it was like 50 cents for a pair of earrings or 35 cents.
Hold on. Again, an MBA in business, because they see you as opportunity.
Right.
So they didn't just, like, when I hear they gave it to you, they invested in a relationship. They were like, oh, wait a second.
Yeah.
This young American, young African American with relationships in America with American money, you know what? Yeah, you can take this.
Yeah. We invested in each other.
I hope business folks are listening right now.
No, because I was selling them on that as they were selling me.
Okay, yeah. So
I was like, listen,
mutual.
I'm going to pay you. They were like, are you going to pay me more? Listen, I'm going to pay you.
I love it.
Then some were like, okay, I trust you, brother. That's when I learned right there, Linnell.
The handshake.
A handshake, sir. I loaded up a box of FedEx jewelry. I sent it to my mother. My mother took it to work. They said they loved it. My business spawned right there. 6 months later, I had a store in Evergreen Plaza Mall. No money. So how did I do it? My mother gave me a credit card. It was an American Express. It had $1,200 on it. My father might have given me $1,000. I took some student loan money, $2,000 or $3,000. Shout out to James Ramos, you met.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Me and Jimmy put some pennies together. We had no more than $5,000. The rent was $1,000 a month. It was a month and a half security. A white guy who probably was Jewish gave us a break. That's another conversation.
That is a whole nother conversation.
And signed a lease with some young folk after I sat down with them and convinced them that we wouldn't go out of business. But black folk, Africans rather, believed in me.
Here's the thing. When we talk about the opportunity between African Americans and Africans, like the opportunity is limitless. And I firmly believe that part of our salvation here in the United States of America and their economic salvation in Africa is the joining forces of the diaspora economically.
Yeah, I posted. Absolutely. I posted. I said, America is a house, right? But it's a house divided. It's a house that'll never be a home.
Right.
America is a house that will never be a home because Africa is home. And until we do right by Africa.
By home,
we can never have a home in America.
There we go. And the more connected you get to Africa, if I may continue, the less you desire the house in America.
You realize it's just a house.
It's just a house.
See, black folk, thank you. You finished it. Black folk in America think that America is home. And America ain't home.
It's not home.
So you're trying to get comfortable in a house like it's home. But see, I realized
mad about it, too.
And mad about it. But hold on to Liddell. So what did it do for me? I realized very early on at 24 years old that America was not my home.
Yeah. And there's a difference between your home and your country.
Correct.
All you got to do is ask an immigrant. All you got to do.
Correct.
Is ask
Puerto Ricans still flying their flag.
There's a difference.
Mexicans still flying their flag.
Yes, there's a
Polish
difference
people.
between a home and a country.
Yeah, but we don't want to fly our flag.
Yes.
And you can fly it, but here's the thing. Black folk going to say, well, I can't fly my flag because I wasn't born there. I hate to break the bad news to you, but they're second, third generation Mexicans, Puerto Ricans who weren't born there either, but they still have a sense of connection to home.
Well, and you brought us full circle. That's the reason we go back home, because many of us don't know where we're from over there. And that's what we accomplish on this trip as well. That's what we accomplish.
So,
reclaiming your true identity, full circle. We've got a few minutes left. Was there anything else when you think about the experience in Ghana that you'd like to call out?
I'm going to take it past the experience. I'll just say this. You all did a great job on the tour, right? So if you're like me, not quote unquote, I'm not a tourist. I don't like being a tourist. Don't fret because you don't feel like a tourist. What you feel like is a person going home, reconnecting and having an experience with some other folk.
Love it.
I just want you all to know that, right? I'll leave it at that.
Got you. Well, I just want to say first, thank you for the trust in going, because I already know for you that I mean, as friends, but also like there are many places you could have spent a week away, and to make that investment and taking the transformational tour of Ghana and going through that experience. It was nice to be with a friend, nice to have a brother along on the ride. Yeah. We had many late night conversations that we were about to get into in the top of the hour. Lord. About relationships, about black relationships, about money. And again, this is the other reason you want to take this trip, because it's the networking. Yeah. You have people like Attorney Ernest B. Fenton on the trip. You have judges. I don't know if she wants me to call her name out, right? But you have judges, hey, on the trip, right? You have professionals, on this trip, IT professionals, therapists. I mean, you name it, nurses, doctors go on this trip.
Rap techs.
Exactly. So it's a phenomenal networking opportunity.
Can I get this last 30 seconds?
Please.
Shouts out to Linnell Harris. Here's my connection too. This is what I got from Ghana. And I kind of knew it, but it's good. It was a reawakening as well. And I think, the trip to Africa, America, the reconciliation of those two things, ideals, if you will, brings me, and it came up from a conversation too. It just brings me to the awareness of the necessity to support people like Linnell Harris. So I shared part of my reason of going on the trip was you have kings that walk amongst us. Remember, the strongest, the best, the bravest, if you will, quote unquote, from Africa made it to the shores of America. And we are the descendants of those people. Mm-hmm. So Linnell Harris is one of the descendants, right? And he's one of those people that is doing the work right here in America. And he's one of those people trying to connect us back, to bring us home. And it's important that we get that we are unlimited, we are unbound, right? But also get that the strongest of us needs our support as much or more than the weakest of us. Mm. And if we support brothers like Linnell Harris, then more of us will make it home.
Wow. Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. Black relationships. So when we were in Ghana, we had a number of evenings and conversations about relationships. In some cases, Attorney Fenton, with you and I just talking about marriage, right? Two brothers who are married, talking about our marital experiences.
Yes.
In some other cases, we had the ladies on the trip with us, other gentlemen on the trip with us, and we got into these conversations / debates about relationship, about masculine, feminine energy, about what it means to be an alpha versus a beta versus a sigma. I mean, the conversations went so many places. Towards the end, it became more, Attorney Fenton, what do you think about this? I think they started to believe you. Because we started off with us fighting. I'd be like, I'm trying to help Fenton. No, what he's trying to say is, by the end of the trip, it was, I got a question. And so I wanted to bring some of that experience into our conversation today. We only got, another 45 minutes or so. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to bring some of that conversation into the last 45 minutes of the show. Black relationships.
Yeah.
What's going on with us, brother?
There's a divide. There's an absence of male. There's an abundance of male presence in our community. There's an absence of man presence in our community. There's an absence of what it means to be a man present in the lives of women. There's trauma that has hardened, if you will, and caused distrust and mistrust amongst our women. And there seems to be a burden of proof and with respect to our relationships, prove to me that you are trustworthy, that you are honorable, that you care about me, before I give you, any benefits of the doubt. And it's the central linchpin, it's the central noose around our necks that's going to stop us from accomplishing any of the things that we talk about needing to accomplish.
So when I listen to how you ended that statement, by the way, I agree with everything you said. Are you then suggesting that our salvation comes through relationship,
absolutely,
through marriage?
Absolutely. Our salvation is squarely placed in part and parcel to our ability to connect as in union. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to get into like how that union is accomplished. I don't know if you're jumping a broom. I don't know if you're doing it in the basement, under the spiritual instructor. It's not the United States of America giving you a marriage certificate.
Right.
But there has to be some relationship, some bounding or binding between men and women before we're able to accomplish anything. If we can't get right by us, how we going to get right?
Right. I'm with you.
How do we expect anybody to take us serious and care about us if we don't care about each other enough to be together? It doesn't even make sense. It's impossible. It's impossible.
Now, to your point, for someone who's like, well, why does it really matter? You look at any other community of people. Right now in the news, there's a whole lot of conversation about the Jewish community, right?
Yeah.
And we look at the power that they wield.
Yeah.
Relationships matter in that community.
Correct.
We look at the communities where, I go pump my gas, and who's behind the counter? Could be a Middle Eastern, a Pakistani, an Indian, a Saudi Arabian, you name it.
Right.
But one thing that we don't see is their relationships.
Right.
And how those relationships matter. I can go down a list of different cultures and ethnic groups, right? If it's a strong ethnic group, there is always one thing that you see that is strong as well.
Strong family structure.
Strong family structures.
Yeah. Do an investigation of any or all the people who wield the, quote unquote, wield the power in the Jewish community, who pulled the plug on Kanye West, and who's the other person? Kanye and Kyrie, and see if they're married. And ask me if that's a coincidence. Mm-hmm. And then look at Kyrie and Kanye, and then look at their relationships.
Kyrie is married. He's married.
I went speechless. So was Kanye.
Yeah. Which I think who you marry, we can get into that conversation. Right now we're just setting it up. But who you marry matters too.
Yeah.
It matters a lot. And I'm not going to get into marrying within the community, but depending, that could matter too.
Who you marry is a reflection of you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if who you marry does not reflect you, then it's a reflection of you.
So I want to talk to men first, because I think sometimes, at least some of the shows, it could feel like, well, and we've kind of gone in on the brothers. So I don't even think that anybody who's listened to us talk about relationship can say we're biased.
I know they can't say that about me, because I got men looking for me in like vans.
You know what?
They want to do me in.
Before we go there, though, there was something that came up on the trip that I thought was very interesting, and I think it's telling about our community. And what came up on the trip was, I think you heard the comment too. Ooh, there's a lot of masculine energy on this trip. You remember that?
Yeah, you're welcome.
Right? There's a lot of masculine energy on this trip. Now, here's what was telling to me. We're talking about the transformational tour of Ghana, this past trip in 2022, a couple of weeks ago. Now, here's what was telling to me, because when they said that, I thought, really, there's a lot of masculine, because, I didn't notice it. But then I thought about it, and I said, well, it's balanced. You have just as many men as you have women.
Yeah.
And it was a woman who made the comment. Multiple women made the comment.
Yeah.
And then it hit me that our women aren't used to being surrounded or in the presence
of men. No, they're not.
And so the balancing of the genders made it feel for them as if there was a lot of masculine energy when in fact it was balanced.
Yeah.
And it really opened my eyes to something for our community in particular, because it's like, is the African American community being led mostly by feminine energy?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, somebody's going to say, well, what's wrong with that? And I want to go back to the communities that I pointed to before, that those communities are typically led by a balanced energy. They say behind every strong man, there's a strong woman, right? Mm-hmm. There's a balanced energy, whereas not that one's right or wrong, masculine or feminine, but either way, our community is out of balance.
Yeah. So I guess primarily it's an absence of. There's a presence of men. There's a presence of males. There's an absence of men.
There we go. Yeah.
And even with respect to the presence of males, there's still an imbalance of male presence, let alone men presence. And taking and I definitely want to get to the men. I don't want to divert. So yeah, it causes conflict, especially when you're in the presence of men and men start being men. Yeah. Then there's a conflict and then there's a push.
Now let's talk about masculine energy, what we mean. Because here's what these ladies experience, that you can't have one without the other, right? I was leading the trip, so you're gonna have strong masculine leadership. So that's gonna hit in the first place, right?
Yeah.
But with that, these women never had to worry about their safety. They rarely had to carry a bag.
Right.
Getting on and off the bus, they never had to worry about stumbling.
Right.
Or falling.
Right.
There was always a strong hand to hold them.
Yeah.
Like throughout the trip, they were treated
like women.
But
hold on, I'll take it a step further. And I know the ladies are listening, and let me just share, this is not directed at the ladies. We're just using it as context for a conversation. And I'm going to share some things.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Hey, Linnell, I sat in the most uncomfortable seat. Linnell, when I fly, most oftentimes now these days, I fly first class.
Right.
You see? But on that trip, I sat in the back of the bus behind a seat where my legs.
All the men did. All notice.
So I made sure that the ladies had the best seats.
The middle of the bus.
And I don't do that. You get my point. But see,
all the men did that.
That's what happens when you're in the presence of a man.
Mm-hmm. There are things they didn't even recognize.
Then when we were walking up the mountain, I would oftentimes stop and go back.
And check on the women.
Yeah, and I would get behind the older, I got behind the seniors. And I would just sort of walk with them. I look back. Sometimes I walk back. Mm-hmm. And that's because that was me being a man. But people don't oftentimes notice that because they're not accustomed to a man doing man things. And I don't want to flip it. I want to stay on what a man looks like. And then that's also why, a lot of men who are trying to be males, trying to be men, they got to push back because we're so unaccustomed to males being men that when they start to act like a man, it's not acknowledged. People are not even present to it.
Right. Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Not that it has to be. Not that someone's looking to stroke, be stroked on the back.
Well, and I believe what brought it to the forefront, there's lots of masculine energy, is there's benefits to masculinity. I think about my wife. Part of the benefit is very seldom does she pump her gas. Very seldom does she have to worry about being cold, being outside, doing of doing that type of work, physical labor, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Even last night, honey, can you bring that basket up from the basement?
Yeah.
Right? There are benefits to having masculine energy. On the flip side, my wife has to deal with masculine energy.
Correct.
I don't believe that's the direction we should go, and I hold.
Yeah. Sometimes your tone is not going to be at the level that she desires.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you get my point.
Yeah. Yeah. She has to deal with it on both sides. And the thing that troubles me most about our community and our relationships is that we typically want the best of masculine energy.
You want the benefits.
The benefits of masculine energy without the sacrifice.
Yeah, without the burden of masculine energy.
Yes. Yes.
So we take the benefits of masculine energy silent. But anyone
without acknowledgement.
Without any acknowledgement.
Thank you for that.
With very little, relatively speaking acknowledgement. But then any slight burden of the masculine energy is pronounced. And now I got to say something.
And it typically comes as a complaint.
Correct.
Of some sort.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, we're going here because one of the things that I know Attorney Finn and I have been talking about a lot in relationship is what makes a relationship work. And I know you've been reading, I'm sure you finished by now, The Way of the Superior Man by David Dieter, where he calls out how the masculine and feminine energy work in relationship for successful relationships. So this is part of the contextually why we're having this conversation.
Yeah.
So let's talk about feminine flow, right? Because you experience feminine flow.
Yeah.
I experience feminine flow.
Yeah.
There are benefits to feminine flow.
Yeah.
And there are sacrifices.
Yeah. I love it. And I'm going to flip it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing we said for men. I just learned this yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, literally, ladies, I'm confession. And, I'm in my 50s. Yes. But I just learned this a year, 2, 3 ago, and I told this to a young man yesterday, in fact, who was seeking my advice in his 30s and married. If you want the benefits of a woman, be prepared to accept the burden of a woman. So her feminine energy is going to say, is that enough for you? Have you had enough to eat? Can you please bring some more water? Let me get that off your shirt. All those little things.
That's a benefit.
Those are all the benefits of a woman. As I'm walking out the door, my wife, hey, do you want me to make you some coffee? Those are all the benefits of a woman. So when you get the burden of a woman, and guess what? The burden of a woman sometimes appears when you are attempting to be a man. And so when you see her, when she appears to you as a woman, when you show up in your masculine energy and you get a little pushback, that's your burden. She's a woman. So at the same time you are seeking grace, mercy, and understanding, you must be giving grace, mercy, and understanding.
Love that. So let's talk a little bit, for anybody who's confused, let's talk a little bit about the difference between masculine and feminine energy. Because I really want to get this, I want people to understand what we're pointing to. And I want you to understand that a woman can be masculine and a man can be feminine. And it has nothing to do with sexuality. It's all energy.
Yeah.
It's all energy. Let me give you an example of what I mean. I'm going to use myself as an example. If my wife goes into her feminine flow, right, which is to engage me in, let's say, a spirited conversation, right, maybe an argument.
Yeah.
Right? And so she's coming at me.
Right.
I have a decision to make as a man. Will I join her in that feminine flow? Right. And now we tango. And by the way, there's nothing attractive about that for her.
Right.
Nothing attractive about that. And men, I want you to listen. If you're wondering right now why when you go back and forth with your wife, it never ends good for you, and she don't want nothing to do with you, she don't want you to don't touch me, like she's repelled by you, it's because you're bringing the same energy that she's bringing, and we weren't designed to do that.
Right.
Right? Opposites attract.
Right.
magnets. You put a positive in towards a positive in, it repels. So if I bring my feminine energy to my wife, so I could walk into the house this afternoon and all of a sudden she comes at me with feminine flow for whatever reason.
Right.
If I switch into the feminine to address her, I just made a huge mistake because it's going to push us further away from our goal in relationship. All right, so what do I mean? What do I mean by that? It's tempting for me to join her in feminine flow to defend myself.
Right.
No, this won't happen. You know, and start to talk fast, move fast, say fast things. The difference is, and I think we all know this, my wife can say things that I can't say.
Right. Right. Yeah.
She can say things to me that I cannot say to her.
Yes. You can't say to a woman, well, maybe we shouldn't be together. Maybe we should just divorce. Maybe I should just go get a girlfriend.
You can't say that.
Can't say that.
And if you do, you're in the feminine. You're in the feminine.
Yes.
Why are you in the feminine? Because you let it flow out your mouth.
Maybe I should just leave.
You can't say that.
Can't say that.
Let me tell you why.
Can I pause, though?
Yeah, please.
Because you said something that I just learned. And get the book. And this is men, listen up. And I'm guilty of this, so it's a confession. This hurts me. Arguing with your woman or your wife is feminine.
It's feminine.
See, that's what men don't get.
It's feminine.
It's feminine. You sound, excuse me, ladies, excuse me, just give me this. You sound like a woman. You sound like a chick. You sound like a broad. You got grown men on social media going back and forth with women, talking about women. Let me tell you what I do. I say what I said, and I move on.
There you go.
I said what I said. I meant what I said. Now, you can respond to your woman, but you shouldn't be debating. The moment you find yourself in a debate with the woman, now you're feminine.
And you lost, because how you going to beat her at the feminine? How you going to beat her at her game?
Yes.
How am I going to out-feminine my wife?
Yeah, I can't win.
I can't win that game.
Which now further enhances the point that you don't understand what masculinity is, because you don't even know that you're in a losing game. And you don't have the wherewithal to walk away from a game that you know you're about to lose. Emotionally, you can't stop yourself.
And the way feminine flow works, it will hook you. Like, have this conversation with me. And this is where feminine flow can say things that masculine can't say. Because then it'd be like, oh, you going to walk away? What about this? Ooh, low blow. Feminine, though. Right? Low blow. Now, if I turn around and throw a low blow.
Whoa, the fire. You just killed me. You just stole a baby.
Well, here's the thing. In order for me to throw the low blow, I have to enter feminine. So not only is the statement I make repelling, my energy is repelling. That's why your woman don't want you.
Yeah.
Now I want to, is later, and I want to be, hey, babe. She like, oh. And I can't understand why there's nothing there.
But let's talk about this. Why so many men, I think I'm going to just jump to this conclusion. It's so many men walking around feminine. You have so-called masculine men who are very feminine. One, because, go back to Africa. There's a lack of male and man and masculine presence in the lives of young boys. We don't have men leading our boys.
No.
And so now we have women raising boys. Feminine. Well, you blaming it on women? Nope, I didn't say that. What I said was a fact, which is you have women, the primary the heads of the primary heads of household in our community, raising young boys, and you're feminizing. Not your fault, because you're a woman. You're doing what you do. You're being who you're being who you're supposed to be, but you're feminizing the young boys, and the men don't have the currency to impact the boys because we're not in their lives consistently.
Yeah, man.
We're in their lives, so men will push back. Feminine. Here's how the feminine man pushed back. I am in my son's life. I pick him up from school 2 days a week, and he's with me every other weekend. I don't even have biological children. I've been around my niece enough to know that you can't impact a child 2 days a week and every other weekend. He's already been indoctrinated feminine.
Yep.
So then when he gets around a man, he's going to even repel the information from a man because he's never been around a man. So the cycle continues.
And here's the thing. It's going to be this is what we're experiencing right now in our community. And this is what sisters are experiencing. It becomes very difficult to be in relationship with a man like that, with a male like that.
Correct.
Like you can't, like it's like I can't get it. I can't hardly talk to him. I can't hardly be with him.
Correct.
There's a physical attraction and an energetic rejection.
Yeah. But this is my belief for brothers. So I want to stay on brothers real quick. I don't want to lose that. So brothers.
And we got to define masculinity.
Understand, brothers. Like, as a man, that's your burden. Like, don't be going back and forth with women. No. Say what you say. Say what you say. Mean what you say. And move on.
Here is the masculine. And this is what changes. This is the shift between man and woman. And this is why we need man, and this is why we need masculine. Masculine is pillar. I am pillar.
Oh, yeah, I like that.
My wife tells me often, you're predictable. Yeah, that's why you like me.
Right.
That's why you want to build around me.
Right.
Because you know what to do to flow with me.
Right.
Because I'm, predictable.
Consistent.
I'm consistent. I am going to eat the same thing for breakfast every day.
Right.
Right? That's masculine. I get that she doesn't want to do that because she's feminine.
Correct.
You get where I'm going? I get that she needs variety.
Yeah.
I don't try to push that on her.
Right.
Because then I would be making her masculine. Right. So my job is to be pillar.
Right.
To remain committed to my word in everything that I have told her.
Right.
Right. So that means that if she engages me, let's go back to the example of I come home from the show this afternoon and she engages with me with feminine flow. It's not that I'm a robot. It's not that maybe she can't say something that creates an emotional response in me. But all my responses run through the line of my commitments, my commitment to her, my commitment to the family, my commitment to who I intend to be as a man. And so nothing she can say can move me off my commitment because I am pillar.
I must interject right here. Here's the example. This is what I've learned. Men are responsible for making certain that the household remains intact, right? Women are responsible for making certain that the household is intact, right? If the house begins to break down, if there's a breakdown, what Linnell just described in the household, between, let's say whether it begins with the wife or you as a, let's just say there's a breakdown, however it may have occurred. As a man, you can't break down.
I can't.
So if it even here, brothers on the verge of divorce, I don't know if this relationship is going to work. In the midst of all of that, you still must be the pillar. The bills still got to get paid. Hey. You still going to empty the garbage. You still got to put gas in our car. You have to remain resolute because if you as the man breaks down, then the relationship
breaks down.
It breaks down.
Everything breaks down.
See, hold on. The feminine man believes that the woman is making that decision.
That's what Yeah.
You see?
And that's why everything can stop in a relationship.
Yeah.
Everything can stop in a relationship because, see, this is why we call feminine flow. Feminine flow, like it moves, it's flexible.
Right.
Like my wife is flexible to my way of being, which is pillar, like committed.
Right.
So she like, oh, you want strawberries in your oatmeal? Flow, flow through all that. 'Cause I know you're going to have oatmeal, so maybe you want this with it, right?
No. Just give me the oatmeal.
Exactly.
I said what I wanted already. Here's masculine. No. I said oatmeal. I didn't say strawberries.
I want it the way I want it. right?
Yes.
But
Yes.
but here's where, and we haven't talked about the real true benefits of masculinity.
Yeah.
It's also my dependability.
Right. That's what I get.
See, and you can't have one without the other.
Yeah.
So she also benefits from my dependability. I'm reliable.
Exactly.
I am going to show up no matter what.
Right.
My wife doesn't have to guess whether or not, if our family is in harm's way, whether I'm going to step to the front.
Correct.
She doesn't have to second guess. She knows it.
Yeah, that's the benefit.
That's the benefit. And it's a balance. It creates a balance in the home.
Yeah.
It creates a balance.
Yeah.
And that's what we're missing. We're missing the balance, and we're missing the uniqueness of me wanting my wife to be feminine.
Right. And hold on. And as a man, carrying the burden of the masculine.
Without complaint.
Correct.
Without complaint. I got to pay these. I got to do this. I got to do that.
I got to pay all these bills.
Right. There's no mentioning, I got gas for you today. It's just done.
Hold on. I'm going back over to men.
Mm-hmm.
Brothers, hear me clear. Brothers are always on social media like, Attorney Fenton, why are you always on men? Why do you expect us to do so much? Because you said you wanted to be the leader of the home. You said that you were the head of the home.
Right.
If the ship goes down, you stay on the ship, sir.
There's a cost to being the captain.
There's a cost.
Yeah.
You've got to bring more to the table. Whatever your wife brings to the table, whatever your woman brings to the table is bonus. Mm-hmm. But whether she brings it to the table or not, if you've taken on that responsibility, it's still your obligation to make certain that the table is set.
Yes.
Fully.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem, I believe, with many men is that we don't see, we want all the benefits of the masculine, but we want very few of the burdens of the masculine. So you asking a woman to strip herself naked, literally and figuratively, for you as a man. Do you understand the gift that she's giving with you when she just lays down next to you? Forget anything else she's brought to you. Mm-hmm. Just the benefits of her soft skin, the smell, the aroma that comes from the nape of her neck. For you being able to reach over and touch her hair. Do you know how beneficial that is? What is your obligation just for that?
Mm. And see, if we take it back, and this is where I think in modern 21st century society, we've gotten soft.
Yeah.
Because now there's no real harm, no real risk. There's no likely no wild animal to make me have to jump up and prove myself. How you prove yourself today is you stand in the gap.
Yeah.
You do everything that you can to make sure your family has what they need without complaint.
Right.
Like, this is what it means to be pillar. And I think this is what we got. And so when we have so many men, and by the way, I know brothers got their excuses and their complaints.
Correct.
But when we got so many men
correct
who are willing to let their women lead.
Correct.
Then this is where, again, you have to be very clear about what role you're putting her in, and what role you should be taking.
Yeah.
Because what you're doing is you're saying, I need for you to go out and be masculine.
But then I want you to come home and I want all the benefits of feminine. Really? Really? Brothers, I really need us to hear, and I think that's part of what's holding us back, and quote unquote, they just haven't been, many of us just didn't have a daddy, or we haven't been around men.
Yeah.
And even when you and I know, Linnell, let's speak, we don't have much time to do this. Even Linnell and I is the type of men that we are. When I get around most men, they can't handle my presence. This is why I'm alone oftentimes.
They're triggered.
They're triggered by my presence. He thinks he's more than me. He's so cocky. He got so much to say. I can't believe it. Like women, you can't be in my presence. And then women will hide their boys from me. They don't want their children around me. They don't want their little baby around me.
Wow.
Because I'll eat them. Right? And then you get women, they don't want their husbands around me. Not all of them, because half want their husbands around me. Mm-hmm. Then the husbands are triggered. I don't like him. It's something about him that I just don't like.
Well, because what masculine does, but here's the reason why. What masculine does is it holds other men accountable.
Yes.
There's accountability with masculinity.
Yeah.
There's accountability. Like, you, as my friend, will hold me accountable if I step outside of my masculine role. You'd be like, wait, whoa, hold. And I'll do the same. Hey, bro, you need to think about that. Accountability. So the reason men can't be with you is because they don't want to be held accountable.
And here's the other accountability. I don't want to be around Linnell looking all healthy. What the hell I want to be around him? Skin all clear, beard all manicured, drove up in a damn who knows what vehicle he drove up in, flying first class, white fly, real estate. Who wants to be around this guy?
Either it's going to push me back or call me forward.
You follow what I'm saying?
But see, here's the thing. A lot of us want to believe that we're willing to accept the call forward. But I'm going to take it back to, again, because I think modern society has us messed up. But there was a time that if you were the weakest one of the group,
oh yeah,
you fought to be at least in the middle of the pack. I got to get better. Because if not, then you're put into a feminine role. You stay in the village with the women.
Yeah.
Because you're a liability. And we don't have that anymore. And so we're not learning how to be men.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong. And I want to be very clear. Because sometimes people get triggered by this conversation. There's nothing wrong with men being taught to be men and women being taught to be women. And this is where the balance is falling out of place in our community.
Correct.
Masculine energy. Go ahead.
As much as we need masculine energy in our community, the greatest attack that's occurring in our community is against masculine energy.
It is. And then, really think about that. You want young men to stop running up on cars and jacking them?
Yeah.
You want to feel safe going to the bank at 2 a.m. in the morning?
Yeah.
You want to be able to walk down the street without worrying about somebody snatching your purse? The only thing that will solve that is masculine energy.
Yeah.
And young boys learning how to be masculine, because there's nothing masculine about hurting someone that's weaker than you.
Correct.
I was having this conversation the other day. I was sharing how, for one of my buddies, he had a bachelor party. We were all at the house. And I was just giving the difference between masculine and feminine energy. We're all at the house. All of us have done martial arts at some point. So you already know what started to happen. Now, this is men. This is how we operate. And this is how you want us to operate.
Right.
Okay?
Well, let's see.
They like, what you study, Linnell? I'm like, I did some taekwondo. I do jiu-jitsu now. He's like, I did Krav Maga. Like, it's the best. It's the best one. I'm like, yeah, show me. So guess what happened? You got 5 or 6 men who study some form of martial art. Guess what? Guess how we spent our evening?
Right.
Sparring.
Right.
His mother-in-law comes down and is like, you all are crazy. No, we're just men.
Right.
Doing things that men do.
Correct.
But here's the difference. We're expending that energy on someone who can actually take it.
Right.
So when I walk out, I don't feel like I need to expend that energy on someone weaker than me.
Right.
And this is what's missing in our community. My son, he expends that wrestling energy, right? That pent up energy that came to him through God's divine will, right? Wrestling me in taekwondo with Master Parks.
Right.
Like he's expending all that and then also learning how to channel it so one day he can become a masculine pillar.
Right. Hear what I'm saying, ladies. Men require conflict and competition. A lot of people, smart people, much smarter than I, they say part of the reason why we're having the diminution of men and masculinity is because this crop of men have never been faced with a real war, quote unquote.
Yeah, true.
Afghanistan, accepted. But we've never been confronted with war.
But not with a draft. Like, well, you have to go to war.
Correct.
You have to step up.
Yeah.
Yeah, this generation hasn't had that.
So if we don't have conflict, like men grow through conflict, women too, but men grow through conflict and competition. So if we don't have conflict, then we create conflict. And if we don't have understanding of what is the responsibility of man, then we create conflict in unproductive ways. And that's the robbery. And that's the muggings. And that's the killing.
So let me say this. I'm looking at some of the comments in the feed on Facebook. And we got 10 minutes left. I've even, curious to get a question via the phone lines. One of them said, "I just don't like masculine energy that is used to make me feel less or talk down to me." I get that. Condescending that's not what we're talking about. Let me say this. This is where I think masculine energy can be misunderstood. A masculine man is going to be clear and committed to a certain train of thought. And this is where I believe the Creator in all his wisdom created feminine flow. If a masculine man is very clear or stubbornly holding a position, women are so powerful. If you choose to go into your feminine.
Right.
So this is the place where we mess up, right? So now I'm being my masculine committed self. And then my wife, she digs her heels in and becomes masculine too.
Exactly.
She can't beat me.
No.
She can't out-stubborn me.
No.
It's impossible.
No.
I'm wired this way.
Yeah, you can't outdog. Ladies, you can't outdog a dog. I'm a dog. This is what I am.
Savage.
I'm a savage.
Exactly.
This is what you're trying to be. But I promise you, deep in my soul, at the core of me, I'm a savage.
Like I will, like if we want to go dark, I'm going to win.
Correct.
I'm going, and this is what I believe, sisters, you got to understand this. You don't fight your man with masculine energy.
Correct. I don't care what you say. What's going on? You can do whatever you. Slam the door. That's masculine.
You don't fight your man with masculine energy. If you have, and this is where commitment in a relationship is so powerful, because if you want him to move,
give him feminine.
Give him feminine flow. Now, my cousin was on a trip. I'm just going to use this as an example. And we were having this conversation. And she was talking about, if you remember, how do I influence my husband with business? And she was like, well, he doesn't hear me when I say, he doesn't hear me when I do. And what Ernest and I articulated to her is because you're coming to him in the masculine.
Yeah.
You should do this.
Right.
You're not going to be successful if you don't do that. Right? So how he's like, any man is going to dig his heels in and be like, watch me. Right?
Say less. Say less.
And she's married to an alpha man.
Right.
So here's what I told her. This is a great way to end the show. I was like, if your husband needs you, and she admitted that at one point he came back and said, you said this to me. This was the right thing to do, et cetera, et cetera. She's like, why it take so long? Well, it took so long because you came at him in your masculine energy. I'm like, but the next time you know what you know, and you know it's going to help him, all you got to do is whisper it in his ear after you all make love. Hey, babe, you know what I think will help the business? And I went all the way there.
Right.
I went all the way there, right? You don't have to make love to him, you know.
Right.
But it's feminine flow, right? You can make his plate. You can cook him dinner and say, I got something I want to say. It's feminine flow.
Right.
Right? But I said to her, if after that you said, I was thinking about the business, you know what we should do? You got him.
Exactly.
He hears you.
All you have to do is whisper.
He hears you.
Yeah.
Because you're coming at him in the way that he knows how to accept you. And this is, I believe, one of the biggest, this conversation we had today, right? For some folks, it's going to take a while.
Oh, yeah.
You might have to listen to this part 2, 3, 4 times.
We said the same thing on both sides.
We did.
So for men, and listen, this is confession for me because I had to learn this. It's like I practice it in certain regards, in certain regards I didn't. You know, you have to know when when you're in your feminine, and if you're trying to be in a relationship with a man, don't get me wrong. I mean, with a woman, don't get me wrong. She wants to know that you are a man and that you can also be soft and quote unquote feminine. But back and forth in the debating and on social media, arguing and all that, falling out and telling your woman what you can't do. I don't think my wife ever heard me say what I can't do. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's not appealing. And on the flip side, you just said, Linnell, women, you know, and I can't speak for women. I'm just giving you my observation. You all talk about tone. Well, if he just tells me in the right tone, guess what? You all have tone too. And are you speaking and relating to your man in a feminine way, a way that is attractive to him?
To him, right.
So that's your tone. Watch your tone with your man. And your tone is, here it is. Your tone is also timing. And your tone is also tone.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, majority of what a person hears is your tone. Like 70% or so is all tone.
Yeah.
I want to say this to end the show. In our community, we've been set up for the woman to assume masculine roles. Like, you have to know that a lot of this is by design. Men were taken out of the household, put in jail, the war on drugs. There's so many things that have happened that have forced us out of our roles. And the reason why I believe this is such an important conversation is because if we are really looking to the healing and the overall empowerment of our community, it starts with the basics. The basics are our relationships and how we interact with one another. To the sisters out there who had to assume the masculine role so that you can make it, so that your children can eat, my heart goes out to you. But just know that everything that we said about relationship is true. If you remain in a masculine role, you will not attract a masculine man. To my brothers who were raised by single mothers, the examples that you saw, and the feminine ways that you in some ways embraced, my heart goes out to you. Consider that it's time that you join the ranks of other masculine men and have the humility to actually say, I need to learn how to be masculine. It will save my marriage. It will save my family. It will save me. This is where there's nothing right or wrong. It really comes down to what you want to create in your life. Hey, my inspired peoples. Linnell Harris here, certified ontological coach and trainer. I'm so excited that you're watching the channel. By the way, did you know you can catch the show live at 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. every Sunday morning? You can. All you have to do is go to my Facebook stream, Coach Linnell Harris, catch the stream live, or you can listen to the radio show via iHeart at WVON 1690 AM. But since you're here, if you love the content, I ask that you share it, like this particular video, and subscribe to the channel. I hope you're having a great day.